Okay. So, good evening, everybody. Yeah. So you got, did your self-centered attitude get hammered a little bit last night? Just a little bit, huh? Wait until you hear it tonight. Yeah. Shantideva is, he's quite something. Like I said, just very direct and very honest. And I really like that approach, because then I know exactly what he says and without the sugarcoating. Yeah. So I really like that approach. Yeah. So we will continue with that this evening. So just like yesterday, we will start with taking refuge and generating bodhicitta, and then the four immeasurables, that also known as the four Brahma Viharas. And these really lead us into generating love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And on that basis, then cultivating bodhicitta, the aspiration to attain full awakening, so we can be of the greatest benefit to other living beings. So let's get going. You still awake Friday night at the end of the week? Or are you gonna? So we'll cultivate our motivation now. So just like last night, let's recall that the Buddha taught out of love and compassion for sentient beings. And Shantideva, the author of this text, taught likewise out of that motivation. So to really take in the teachings, it benefits us to create the same motivation that they have. One that recognizes ordinary childish sentient beings as under the sway of afflictions and karma. And instead of getting angry at them for the inconsiderate or harmful things they do, having compassion because they're under the sway of ignorance and anger. They don't understand karma. They don't understand the ultimate nature. And so, although they want happiness, they continually create the cause of suffering. And since we too are childish sentient beings, the way ignorance affects us is similar. So generate the aspiration to free ourselves from the ignorance, afflictions, and karma that bind us to cyclic existence. And then to generate the very profound love and compassion that will push us, motivate, inspire us to attain the highest awakening, so we can not only free ourselves from samsara, but benefit others and lead them on the path as well. And so with that kind of motivation, we'll share in the Buddhist teachings tonight. Okay, so we were on verse 21. we did that one, but I want to go over it. Yeah. It's quite a powerful verse if you really think about it. If there is someone who despises me, what pleasure can I have in being praised? If there is another who praises me, what displeasure can I have in being despised? So it's really pointing to and asking us to question ourselves about why do we take others' opinions of us so seriously and either get very, exhilarated when somebody praises us and very down when people criticize us. Because there's always going to be some people who praise us and some people who criticize us. Yeah? So, you can try and please everybody, but it doesn't really work. One time when I had a position in the monastery, I was director, and some of the people were unhappy with what I was doing, and they were complaining to me about what I was doing, and I felt so hurt. So my teacher was coming soon, so when I saw him, I said, Rinpoche, I'm doing my best and I'm getting criticized. And he looked at me and he said, childish sentient being criticized the Buddha too. Oh, yeah. If childish beings, people who are ignorant, criticize the Buddha, then of course they're going to criticize me. There's no reason to criticize the Buddha. The Buddha's not harming anybody, he's only benefiting others. But me, I'm kind of a combination of all sorts of stuff. So of course people are going to criticize me. Why am I so surprised? And when we really work to calm our own anger, we see, people are criticizing me. Well, how many times have I criticized others? Every day I find something to criticize about somebody. At least one thing, one person. Some days I'm really in a bad mood. This person is, and that person, and that person. Unhappy with everybody. So, why am I surprised when other people criticize me and complain about me? When I put that energy out into the universe, then of course it's going to come back to me. I created the cause, I experienced the result. So there's no reason to blame other people if they criticize me, because the principal karmic cause was something I did, either in this life or probably previous lives. So if I don't like the result of getting criticized, then I've got to stop criticizing others. So instead of blaming them, I call this the duct tape meditation. When you want to, you're mad and you want to complain about somebody, it's the time. Keep your mouth closed. Yeah? Let your mind calm down. Yeah? Realize that, whatever is happening is no big deal. Yeah? We get so aggravated and irritated about very small things, and then let all of that ruin our own happiness. And then our behavior, creates problems with other people. So lots of people, in Dharma classes, when I talk about anger and overcoming anger, they always say, well, two things they do. They elbow, their husband or wife or friend or parent who's sitting next to them. Hey, listen to what she's saying about anger. Yeah. Yeah. That's typical of us, isn't it? It's somebody else's problem. They get angry. Me, I'm so sweet. Yeah. They need to listen to the teachings on the anger, not me. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's verse 21. Okay. Even if the conqueror, whenever you hear conqueror, it refers to the Buddha because he has conquered or been victorious over the afflictions. Yeah. In Spanish, the term for conqueror is conquistadores. If you say that in Mexico or Central America or Latin America, you say conquistadores, everybody goes like this. Because in the history of those countries, the European conquerors, the European conquistadores, went into their countries and caused and, trampled on the native people. So, whenever you translate things, you have to be sensitive to the culture that you're translating into. Yeah. So in case any of you ever translate into Spanish, don't use the term conquistadores. Yeah. Say victors. Yeah. The Buddha is victorious over the afflictions. Yeah. Okay, but here it says conqueror. Even if the conqueror was unable to please the various inclinations of different beings, then what need to mention a malicious person such as me? Therefore, I should give up the intention to associate with the worldly. So, when you read the Pali scriptures, you see that the Buddha, the great compassionate one, was unable to please everybody. Yeah, because he was telling the truth. He was telling things as they are, and sometimes people don't like to hear that. Yeah, one teaching, at least in the West, and I think probably here too, that people don't like is the teaching on death and impermanence. Yeah. I actually like that teaching. It really calms my mind. Yeah, when I think about that, my problems, I don't have problems. Mind is very calm. Yeah. The teaching about the defects of samsara. Yeah, we also don't like to hear that. Yeah. Because we want to think samsara is a playground. It's so wonderful. It's really difficult to have a real, genuine Dharma motivation. Yeah, because we're not quite sure we want to get out of samsara. We just want to tweak our samsara, make it better. We want to get rid of the suffering part of our samsara, the unpleasant part, and just have perpetual happiness, which means I get everything I want when I want it. And it never disappears until I don't want it anymore. But when is that going to happen? Do you know anybody who gets everything they want? No. So, yeah. Because that's not the nature of being in cyclic existence. Yeah? So we have to really think about that. Yeah, and yes, we experience some happiness. That's nice. But let's not think that samsara is fantastic. Yeah, because we all face aging, sickness, and death. And I don't think that's on any of the top 10 activities we want to do. Is it? Yeah. So this is why we want to get out of cyclic existence, and why we want to help other beings to do so as well. Yeah, to arrive at a state of actual peace, of actual fulfillment and happiness, not this kind of yo-yo existence that we live in now. You know the toys, yo-yos? You have yo-yos in Singapore? Yeah. Yo-yo goes up, down, then it goes up. My mood goes down, my mood goes up, then it goes down again, then it goes up again. We're like yo-yos. So let's try and get ourselves out of this mess, you know? And the way to do it, listening to, contemplating, meditating on the Buddhist teachings. Okay, verse 22, yeah. So even the conqueror the Buddha was unable to please everybody. So what need to mention a malicious person like me? Yeah. Are you sometimes malicious? Oh, there's so many people here who are not malicious. Oh, you're the goody-goody. You never get angry. Yeah. So, yeah. So if the Buddha can't make everybody happy, certainly we can't. And certainly other worldly beings can't either. Yeah. Their minds are out of their control. Next verse. So this is talking about the childish beings. They scorn those who have no material gain and say bad things about those who do. How can they, who by nature so hard to get along with, ever derive any pleasure from me? Okay, so childish beings, yeah, they scorn people who have no material gain. Look at you. You go to work, you don't make much money, you're such a slacker person, you know, why don't you get a decent job, why don't you get more money? What a flake you are. Yeah, you're expecting everybody to give you a handout. Okay, so childish, scorn people who make no money. Yeah, have no material gain. And then they say bad things about people who do have material gain. Oh, so what did you do to get so rich? The implication is, who did you cheat? Yeah, that you got so money. And why do you have that money? You didn't do anything to deserve it. I should have it. Yeah, so worldly people are like that. Yeah, if you don't have money, they look down at you. If you do have money, they're jealous. Yeah. So how can they, who by nature so hard to get along with, ever like me? Yeah? It's impossible. They're not going to think I'm the greatest person on earth. But I shouldn't take that too seriously, because whose approval is really important? Yeah? Is the approval of worldly people important to us? Or is it the approval of the Aryas, the approval of our teachers? whose approval is important? Yeah, think about it. Yeah. That doesn't mean with our Dharma teachers that we act all sweet when we're around them to impress them with what wonderful students we are, how sincere we are. You know, there's these some people, whenever they're near the teacher, so kind, so easy to get along with. As soon as they leave that room, then with the other people in the center, you do this, do that, why you blah, 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 blah. And they create conflict. Yeah, don't be somebody like that. But there are people like that. Maybe you've met some of them. I have. But me, I'm not like that. Oh, no. Yeah. When I am nice and kind to everybody. Do you really believe me? Okay, next verse. It has been said by the Tathagatas that one should not befriend the childish, because unless they get their own way, these children are never happy. So he's saying these children, but he's referring to adults. Okay? And most people, when they don't get their way, they're unhappy. Yeah? So that's talking about us. And it's talking about our families. It's talking about our colleagues. It's talking about all the childish, worldly, sentient beings in this world. Yeah? When they don't get their way, they let you know. Yeah. When I was very little, I was maybe like 4 years old, and this was many years ago. So the kind of roller skates they had, 70 years ago, are not like the roller blades that you have now. We had to wear our shoes, and then there were these really clunky things. Yeah, you remember them, huh? That had little hooks on them, and you put your foot on the clunky wheels, and then the hooks, got on your shoes, and then you were supposed to keep all of that on your foot when you were skating. But the wheels didn't roll very easily, not like what they have today. So my parents had gotten me some roller skates. So I was a little kid. I sat on the floor and I put my skates on, and I couldn't get them on properly. Okay, these hooks would not hook onto my shoes. So every time I stood up and tried to skate, the skate would come off, the wheels would come off. So I got so frustrated. I sat on the ground and I threw the skates down, and I just went, and threw a little temper tantrum. What did my dad do? He had a little movie picture camera, and he videoed it. He filmed my temper tantrum. Okay? So I'm telling you this story because most of us, when we don't get what we want, we're unhappy. But be careful. You might have somebody, he only had some 8mm camera, which was a whole process to turn on. Now somebody might just take out their phone and, video you sitting there going, you don't get your way. Or, more adult ways of throwing a temper tantrum. But sometimes adults act just like kids, don't they? They yell, they scream, they throw things. Yeah. There's a reason Shantideva calls us the childish. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Shantideva is saying here, the people that are like that, we shouldn't befriend. We shouldn't make those people, we're polite, we're kind, but we don't get real close to them or ask them, for advice or for help, because they don't have a lot of Dharma wisdom. Next verse. So here, he just got done talking about how ordinary people are so unreliable and why, not to be attached to them. So now he starts talking about going off and doing a long-term retreat. Yeah. So remember yesterday I said that's what he's preparing people for in this chapter. We're probably not ready to do that. Yeah. But it's good to listen to this, because hopefully one lifetime we will be ready. In the meantime, we can really try to reduce our attachment to other people. So now Shantideva says, when shall I come to dwell in forests, among the deer, the birds, and the trees, that say nothing unpleasant and are so delightful to associate with? Yeah, the deer are very nice. Yeah, our land, yeah, we have deer. We also have cougars. We also have bears. We also have moose. Yeah, the moose usually, when they see you, don't bother you. They'll run away. But you have to make sure, if you're in the forest, not to get between a mama moose and a baby moose, because she doesn't like that. She protects her baby. Yeah. The daddy mooses, sometimes they come close. We've had a couple come close to our buildings recently. They have these big brackets, not antlers, yeah, like the male deer, but these big kind of things on their head. Yeah, I haven't gotten too close to them, but one time I was walking in the forest, and one just ran out from nowhere right in front of me. I guess I scared him. Yeah, but he shocked me. Okay, but the birds, yeah, they're nice. Yeah, the ticks, okay, the wasps, Yeah, would you want to be born as a tick or a wasp? Or even a bear or a cougar? Would you want to be born in the animal realm? Yeah. Okay, so we have to make sure we don't create the cause for that. So Shantideva continues, when dwelling in caves, in empty shrines, and at the feet of trees, never look back. Cultivate detachment. Yeah? So when you go to do long-term retreat, know what you're doing, go forward. Don't kind of start and then go, oh, but I miss my friends. I want some hot soup. I want some chocolate. Yeah. No, in order to really do long retreat, you have to have few desires and be easily content. Yeah. When shall I come to dwell in places not clung to as mine, and which by nature are wide and open, and where I may have, as I wish, where I may behave as I wish without attachment. So this is interesting. When shall I come to dwell in places not clung to as mine? We're the opposite, aren't we? We want to dwell in flats, houses, anywhere. This is my house. This is my flat. This is my residence. Yeah. And here's Shantideva saying, oh, it'd be so nice to dwell in a place that I don't consider mine. Yeah. Because as soon as we consider something mine, our whole relationship with it changes. This is my cup. My cup. Yeah. Don't you look at my cup with your desirous eyes like you want to take it from me. This is mine. Okay. As soon as we say mine, our whole relationship with something changes. Yeah, my flat. Not your flat. You can visit when I give you permission, but you cannot move in. Mm-hmm. It's quite interesting. That two-letter word, my, M-Y, changes the whole thing. Yeah. For example, okay, you go looking for a new car. So you go to the car dealers. You see exactly the car that you like. Yeah. But you don't buy it then because they have to order another one like it from the factory. Yeah. In the meantime, yeah, the car that you like that was in the showroom gets scratched. Yeah, somebody took it for a drive, came back, it had a scratch. Does the fact that that car, which belongs to the car dealer, gets scratched, does that bother you? Do you get upset about that? No. Yeah, it belongs to the car dealer. But as soon as you give somebody a piece of plastic and they give you that car, yeah, and you drive that car home because it's now yours. By the way, they're very kind. They take your piece of plastic and they give it back to you. And they give you a car together with it. Wow! What a deal, huh? But as soon as you put the label "my" on that car, this is my car, and you park it somewhere and somebody comes and scratches it, then what? Do you have the same attitude as when it was the dealer's car? Mm-mm. This is my car. It's new. I bought it. I paid for it. Yeah. It's mine. Who damaged it? Why didn't they leave a note? Why don't they look where they're going when they're driving? We get so mad because it has that little word "my" attached to it. Whereas before, when it didn't have that little word "my," we didn't care if it got damaged. Very strange, isn't it? It's one little word. But look at the clinging that little word brings up in us. Yeah. Okay. When shall I come to live without fear, having just an alms bowl and a few odd things, wearing clothes not wanted by anyone, and not even having to hide this body? Okay? So now he's saying, you live in the forest, you live alone, yeah. You live without fear. Yeah. Can you live in the forest without fear? Or are you afraid of the lions and tigers and bears? Ho, ho, ho. Yeah. Oh, what happens if I get a mosquito bite? I can't live in the forest where there's mosquitoes. I might get it. Yeah. We had one young man come to live at our monastery. And he was only like 20, 21, so very idealistic. Yeah. And he wanted to do a forest retreat and go out and live in our forest, and then, come once a day to the kitchen, and we would give him lunch. Okay? So that's what he wanted to do. That lasted maybe 4 or 5 days. And then he wanted to come back and live indoors again. Yeah. It was too scary for him, sleeping outdoors. Yeah. When we first moved to that land, and I think I told you before, the original residents were me and 2 cats. So for some time I lived there alone, just with the 2 cats. And I would walk in the forest, and I never felt afraid walking in the forest. But people would say to me, "Aren't you afraid living out there all alone?" And I said, "No, actually, I'm more afraid living in a city." Yeah? I'm more afraid of human beings who don't behave properly in a city than I am by the animals in the forest. Yeah. And I've come across cougars a couple of times, well, more than 2 times, a few times. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting when you come across a cougar. Yeah, you kind of look at each other. One time I was rounding a curve in the path, and there were 2 cougars. It was early morning, because they come out early morning and, at dawn and dusk. That's their feeding time. And I rounded the path, and in the middle of the path, there was one cougar with its lying down with its back towards me, and another cougar, I think that cougar's child, kitten. I don't know. Do cougars are baby cougars called kittens? I don't know. Cub for a cougar? Tiger cub? Okay, maybe a cub. Okay, so there was another cougar kind of lying with its head on the first cougar, yeah? And that other cougar, was looking at me, and I rounded the corner, and we just, both of us froze and just looked at each other. Yeah, and I'm looking and wondering, okay, what do I do? Yeah. And it's looking at me, wondering, what in the world is this? And then the cougar, with its back towards me, all of a sudden moved its head and saw me, and it got up and took off. And so the other one took off too. They were more afraid of me. Yeah, do I look like I'm going to eat you up? Yeah. Yeah, and this last year, again, I was walking in the forest, also in the early morning, and there was a cougar right in the middle of the path, and this was a big one. It was an adult cougar. Yeah, really beautiful animal. Yeah. And again, both of us froze. and just looked at each other. And then I said to it, I'm not going to hurt you. You can be, you're okay. And then it turned around and left. Anyway, yeah. So to live, we idealize living in the forest, living in a cave. But, you have to see, are you ready for it? Huh? Okay. And here it says, having just an alms bowl and a few odd things, wearing clothes not wanted by anyone. Do you want to wear clothes that are discarded by other people, that aren't wanted by anybody? No, you want to go get brand new, nice clothes that are in fashion, that make you look good. Yeah, but he's saying, live with clothes that nobody else would wear. And in the early times of Buddhism, for the monastics, it was very difficult to get cloth to make clothes. And so they would often go to the cemeteries, the cremation grounds, and pick up discarded pieces of cloth, or, any scraps that were discarded on the road, they would pick up and then sew together to make a robe. Nowadays, people get a whole big, nice piece of cloth, and then they tear it up to make the patches and stripes. Yeah. We're kind of spoiled nowadays. Mm-hmm. Having departed to the cemeteries, when shall I come to understand that this body of mine and the skeletons of others are equal in being subject to decay? Now he's going to get into a whole thing about the body. Yeah? So many people don't like this because he's going to talk about our bodies in a very realistic way, exactly as they are. Okay? So, you go to a cemetery. In the old days, very often they just threw the corpse there. It wasn't burned, it wasn't cremated. So you had the bones just scattered away. So the monastics would see, when shall I come to understand that this body of mine and the skeletons of others that I see in the cemeteries are equal in being subject to decay? Yeah? So the dead bodies decay, our bodies too will decay. Yeah? And in our culture, in our modern culture, we really try and hide that fact. Yeah, that our bodies will decay. Nancy Reagan, the wife of President Ronald Reagan, she had her funeral all planned out with the guest list of who was to be invited. And she made sure not only that her body was embalmed, and so her complexion looked nice, but she had somebody come and, a beautician come and do her hair and put on really nice clothes so that she looked very beautiful lying dead in the casket. Yeah. And this is, in our modern society, what people do. I went to a wake a couple of weeks ago, and the body was embalmed. Yeah, her complexion looked very natural. Yeah, just like she was sleeping. Do dead bodies really look like that? No. we put all this makeup and good, nice-looking clothes on them. My friend's mother died, when I was, many years ago, and I went to her funeral. It was open casket. She had been suffering from leukemia. She had been very, very ill, lost a lot of weight, was really emaciated. But they made her in the casket, and I heard somebody say, "Oh, I haven't seen her look so good in a long time. She looked better, her corpse looked better made up lying in the casket than it did when she was alive." And this is how our culture refuses to look at death and actually what happens to our body. Yeah, we want everything to look nice. But our bodies which are alive, the dead bodies in the cemeteries, are equal in being subject to decay. Our body is getting old and falling apart moment by moment. This is the reality of it. And yet, we don't like to look at that. One time, some friends had picked me up. We were going into a town. I was going to give a talk at a Dharma center. And there was a young girl who was in secondary school who was coming too. So she came with us, and we had a picnic at the park before we went to the center to give a talk. So there were some boys playing baseball, I think, in the park. So she's a young woman. She was about 16, 17. She looks at the guys, and she was really looking at those guys. Oh, there's some good-looking guys there. Yeah. So I said to her, okay, they look really good now, don't they? She said, yeah. I said, what do you think they're going to look like when they're 80 years old? Her face went, I just shattered her whole interest in them. And I said, they're moment by moment, they're going to that age. And they're going to look like that. They're not always going to look like they look right now. Okay, next verse. So this is, again, talking about the corpse, our body when it's dead. Then, because of its odor, not even the foxes will come close to this body of mine, for this is what will become of it. So when the body decays, it stinks. And it stinks really, really bad. Yeah. If you've ever had a pet that died and you didn't bury the corpse or whatever, if you left it, it would smell. And the more it stayed there, the more it would smell. And our body is no different. When it dies, it will stink to high heaven. Such that not even the animals want to come near. Although this body arose as one thing, when our body is one thing, right? Although this body arose as one thing, the bones and flesh with which it was created will break up and separate. How much more so will friends and others? Okay, so our body is one thing. Yeah. After it dies, all the parts come apart. the flesh gets peeled off, the skin is peeled off. You know, the animals come and munch on the bones and tear the corpse apart. So this body, which is one thing, gets torn apart. So he's saying, how much more so will friends be separated and loved ones be separated from each other? Yeah, we're already two different things. And in the morning, and maybe you live with your loved ones, you go one direction, they go another direction. Yeah. So everything that comes together is going to separate. Now I can see some people looking kind of like, can't you talk about love and light and bliss? Why are you talking about dead bodies? Yeah. Well, because dead bodies are a reality. And our body will become one. Yeah. In Thailand, the society is structured so that the monks can go and watch autopsies, you know, because it becomes a meditation on the body. Why do we meditate on our body as something that's going to die? So that we don't get so attached to this body. Yeah, because at the time of death, when we die, our consciousness, you know, goes on. This body stays here. Yeah. If we're really attached to our body, then death becomes very difficult. Look what happens when you're sick. Yeah, when you're sick, there's so much attachment to the body. Oh, my stomach hurts. Oh, I have a cold. Oh, my back hurts. Yeah, so attached to this body and so reactive to its discomfort. It's very interesting. You know, this is a mindfulness practice. Be mindful of how much time you spend every day taking care of your body. Okay? Our body, which cannot come with us to the next life. Our body, which is just a bunch of vegetable goo. Yeah. It's just a bunch of recycled vegetables. If you eat meat, your body is recycled from other people's bodies. You ate their body when you eat meat. Okay. So, you know, that's the reality of this body. Is it something to cling to be so attached to? Why do we decorate our body so much? Yeah. Yeah. Now the latest thing in Singapore is not everybody, many people dye their hair, even the guys. Yeah. So all of a sudden there's people in Singapore with blonde hair. Yeah. Or light brown hair. Yeah? Why? You think your black hair doesn't look good enough? Yeah? We always want to make our body look better. Decorate it. Yeah? Get the right haircut. Yeah, wear the right clothes that really show off how attractive your body is. Yeah, you get new clothes and look at yourself in the mirror. Oh, and then you prance out into the living room. How do I look? You say to your family. Yeah, Whenever I did that as a teenager, my dad would be reading the newspaper and I'd go, how do I look, Dad? Great. And he'd continue reading the newspaper. Oh, I was so disappointed. Yeah. But it's very easy, you know. Write down how much time you spend taking care of your body so that it looks good, pampering your body so that it feels good. Yeah. All the things you do to make this body comfortable and attractive. And it doesn't go on with us to our next life. But what's going on in our mind, the kind of thoughts and emotions we have, which do affect the karma we create, which does go on to the next life, that we don't pay any attention to. Yeah, what am I thinking? What's going on in my mind? From the time, here's another interesting practice. From the time you leave the front door until the time you arrive at your workplace. Yeah, when you arrive at your workplace, ask yourself, what was I thinking about during that whole time that I traveled from home to the workplace? Can you remember what you thought about? Yeah, you were definitely thinking about something. Probably, you know, it might be maybe you were mad at somebody at your home. Maybe you're looking forward to with attachment to somebody you're going to see during the day. Maybe you're still worried about if your hair looks good, you know, or for the guys, if you have enough hair. Yeah. 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 Or you're worried about what's going to happen at work today. Or maybe, you know, you had a really delicious breakfast. Congee, like you have every day. Really delicious. You can tell how much I like congee. Yeah. But you're thinking about something from the time you leave the house to the time you get to your workplace. Do you even remember what you were thinking about? When you were thinking, were you even aware of what you were thinking about? Or was your mind just in la la land somewhere, spaced out? Yeah? It's amazing when we start looking. It's like the body that doesn't come with me, that decays, I fuss over so much. My mind, which does influence, you know, what I take with me to the next life, I just totally ignore. Yeah. That's not too smart. We need to be more aware of what we're thinking and really monitor it. And if our mind starts going south, you know, and starts thinking about negative thoughts, then we need to catch it right away and, you know, change what we're thinking about. Because it could be, you know, you're sitting on the MRT. Yeah. How many of you like to people watch? Yeah. You just sit and look at other people. And what are you thinking when you sit and look at the other people? Yeah. Well, when you're going to work, they're mostly, yeah, very serious. Yeah. And they're in a hurry. Mm-hmm. but your mind's still looking. Why are they wearing those clothes? They don't match. Yeah, didn't their mother teach them how to wear matching clothes? Yeah, look at that one. Too thin. That one's too fat. Yeah. Oh, there's somebody who's good looking. Yeah? Judging people. You don't know anything about them, but the mind is judging, forming opinions about them. Oh, there's somebody who looks old and grumpy. I don't want to be near them. Just watch your mind. Yeah? It's very interesting, you know. Are we thinking thoughts of kindness? May that person have a good day at work. Yeah. Gee, that person looks unhappy. May they be happy. Gee, there's a parent with their child. Yeah. It's so nice the way the parent's taking care of the child. But then the child starts to scream. And then the parent is like, yeah. And then, why is the parent acting like that? They should be nice to their child. Or, that kid's acting so obnoxious, that parent should whack him. You know? We're just looking at other people, and already we're managing their lives. Are these helpful thoughts? Yeah. Do they create virtue? No. Okay. So it's good to be aware of them. And when we're doing our commentary on what everybody else looks like, you know, cut it. And instead generate metta, generate loving kindness towards them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. At birth I was born alone, and at death too I shall die alone. As this pain cannot be shared by others, what use are obstacle-making friends? Oh, I'll tell you what use obstacle-making friends are. They distract me. And when I'm distracted, then I have a really good excuse for not sitting on the meditation cushion. And I have a really good excuse for not doing my prostrations and not making offerings. Yeah. Obstacle-making friends. Yeah, people who, tell us to go on holiday with them and not go to the Dharma Center. People who tell us, oh, Buddhism? What do you believe in Buddhism for? Yeah? Is Buddha just some guy with a big belly? Yeah? You know, like the ones in the restaurants where you go and you rub the Buddha's belly? Yeah, is that what I'm supposed to do? Okay. At birth I was born alone. At death too I shall die alone. As this pain cannot be shared by others, what use are obstacle-making friends? Okay. When you're dying, do you want your friends and your family all around you? Yeah. Some people want a big going away party when they're dying. Yeah? You're dying. I want everybody there standing around saying, I love you so much. Please forgive me every time I've harmed you. Yeah. We want to hear that when we're dying, as if our mind is going to be clear at that time and we can understand. Yeah. Are people going to stand around you praising you when you're dying? I don't think so. Most of them are probably going to go, don't die. I'm going to miss you so much. Don't die. If you die, how am I going to live? You're the one who brings the money home. What am I going to do? You can't die. You know? You're the person I've loved since we were in primary one, and now you're leaving me. Yeah, how dare you leave? Yeah. Do you want people around you crying when you die? I sure don't. Mm-hmm. Do you want people around you trying to convert you when you die? No way. And I say this because when I lived in Singapore before, there was one young man who, he was late 20s, early 30s, yeah, and he had just gotten accepted to a graduate program in the US. He was very excited about going. And then he discovered that he had cancer. And so I was kind of visiting him a lot during the time when he was getting very ill. And he was living with his sister. And we had all agreed that when he felt he was dying, he would not go to the hospital. He would stay at home. They would call me, and I would come immediately and, talk to him, kind of guide him as best as I could. So we had agreed on that. So one day, I went to visit him, and the door to the flat was locked. No one was there. I instantly knew he's dying. He got scared. He went to the hospital. So we tracked him down in one of the hospitals in Singapore. And I'm going into the ward. It was a great big room with many beds in it. And there was a doctor standing over somebody, and I recognized his voice, and he was saying, "Don't confuse me. Don't confuse me." And I knew what was going on. The doctor was trying to convert him to Christianity as he was dying. Can you imagine that? I walked over there and I looked at the doctor and I said, "He's dying. Do not torment him. Go away." And then I tried to calm him down. Can you imagine trying to convert somebody when they're dying? That is so cruel. So I wrote a letter to the Singapore paper, and I just made it as a question, and I said, one of my students was dying. I went to the hospital. The doctor was trying to convert him, and he was just saying, "Please leave me alone. Don't confuse me." I said, "In Singapore, is this proper conduct on the behalf of a physician?" I left it as a question. I didn't give my opinion. So I waited, and then the paper, the journalist apparently had checked with one ministry or the other, and they wrote the response in the paper, and they said, "No, this is not proper conduct for physicians." Yeah. I knew it wasn't proper conduct, but it needed to be in the paper so that everybody, especially healthcare professionals, no, do not try and convert somebody when they're dying. Yeah. So if you're with somebody who's a Buddhist when they're dying. Talk to them about the Buddha's teachings. Tell them to visualize the Buddha and take refuge. Generate bodhicitta. If you happen to be with somebody from another religion who's dying, use the language of the religion they believe in. Don't use Buddhist language if they're not Buddhist. That's not going to help them. It's kinder to use the language of what they believe. If they're a free thinker, they don't follow any religion at all, then just remind them of their compassionate actions during life and tell them, to have a compassionate heart and take that compassionate heart on with them to the next life. Yeah. So, especially at the time of death, you want to be very careful and not cause anybody any agitation. I was so horrified that a doctor, his doctor was trying to do that. It's just so cruel. Yeah. Okay. So that doctor was an obstacle-making friend. Okay. That doctor had been trying to treat him when he was sick, but then at the time of death became an obstacle-making friend. Okay. In the same way as travelers on a highway leave one place and reach another, likewise, those traveling on the path of conditioned existence leave one birth and reach another. So there's no reason to be attached to anything in our life because we're going to separate from it. Yeah. There was one nun I knew, and she gave the example, when she would give a talk of a cup. And the cup, looked nice like this. And she said, this cup is already broken. Yeah. Well, literally, the cup was not already broken. But she was reflecting, the cup is impermanent. Yeah. It's going to break one day. So it's in her mind, remembering its impermanence, it's already broken. So there's no reason for me to be attached. I wouldn't be attached to a broken cup. Yeah? So whatever we consider ours, be it our body, our flat, clothes, money, whatever it is, to think of its impermanence, it's already going to belong to somebody else. Yeah? Whatever we have, can't take with us. So don't get depressed about this. When you really think about it, for me, it makes my mind so calm, because this is the truth of what things are. So why cling? Why make such a big deal about, I want this and I've got to have it? It's, even if I get it, I'm going to separate from it. Yeah. Why make such a big deal about if people treat me exactly the way I want them to treat me? Or if sometimes they're in a bad mood and they're rude. Yeah. We're already going to separate. I'm not expecting them to fulfill all of my expectations. Yeah. When we lessen our clinging attachment, when we downgrade our expectations, then our mind is more easily satisfied. Then whatever we get, we're happy with. Okay. Do you get what I mean? You know, if you really, if you're expecting something wonderful, then if you get anything slightly less than that wonderful thing, you're going to be dissatisfied. If you aren't expecting very much, then whatever you get, oh, that's good. This is useful. Okay, you getting what I said? So it makes your mind much calmer, much more satisfied with whatever we have or however people treat us. Mm-hmm. Okay. Until the time comes for this body to be supported by 4 pall-bearers, while the worldly stand around stricken with grief, until then I shall retire to the forest. Okay? So he's saying, until I die, I'm going to stay and do my practice, because my Dharma practice, whatever virtue I create, whatever realizations or understandings of the Dharma I can gain, the imprints of all of that will go with the consciousness to the next life. Yeah. And so I'm not going to worry about and plan my funeral and imagine everybody who was mean to me, who didn't treat me properly, standing around crying, expressing how they feel so guilty because they didn't treat me right and apologizing. No. Yeah. And this is exactly why, and if you talk to any doctor or nurse or anybody who works in a hospital, many people die at night when nobody's there. Yeah, many people do. Because it's hard to die when other people are around and they're grieving and they're sad. And then you're trying to die and focus your mind on the Buddha. And you have to take care of the people around you who are sad because you're dying. No, that's not the way it should be, So, so he's saying, I don't want that. I'll stay in the forest, befriending no one and begrudging no one. My body will dwell alone in solitude. If I'm already counted as a dead man, when I die, there will be no mourners. So he's talking about when he goes out to the forest to do his practice. Yeah. All the worldly people, his family, his ex-girlfriend, his ex-boyfriend, whoever it was, all those people are going to go, oh, he left. I don't have my friend. Oh, he went to the forest, meditate. And he's, and at a certain point, they'll be like, kind of act mentally, kind of think like you're dead, And he's saying, oh, that's kind of nice. Because if I want to do my practice, if those people in their minds, think like I'm a dead person, then they'll leave me alone to do my practice. They won't come knocking on the door of my cave, ringing the doorbell on my cave. Yeah, saying, hey, I haven't seen you for a while. We're having a party. Yeah, it's almost New Year's. Want to come celebrate with us? No. Okay. And as there will be no one around to disturb me with their mourning, thus there will be no one to distract me from my recollection of the Buddha. So he's saying, when I die, I'm going to do the practice of recollection of the Buddha, where you remember the Buddha's qualities, the Buddha's virtue. And when you think about the Buddha's qualities, when you imagine, imagine being in the presence of the Buddha, then your own mind feels so uplifted, so inspired. Yeah. And then if you die in that kind of mental state, you're going to have a good rebirth. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to stop here. Verse 36, we finished. We can do 1 or 2 questions, maybe? Questions, comments? Yeah, here.
Dear Venerable, the clause 27, when shall I come to dwell in places not clung as mine? But I develop a sense of belonging in places that I see is mine, like my home. Then I can dwell comfortably, like peacefully.
If you consider it mine.
Yes, like a sense of belonging, like, and then that's when I dwell.
Oh, okay.
So how do you dwell in? If it's not mine, then it'd be like strange, like a stranger's place.
Okay. So when you are in a strange place that is not yours, then you don't feel so safe. But when you're in a place that's your place, you know where everything is, you know the people who are going to come in there, so you feel much calmer. Yeah? So you can see how our mind works, how if we put the name mine on something, then it gives us a feeling of security. Yeah. Is that real security? Yeah. Does calling something mine mean that it's always going to be mine? No. Yeah. Have you ever been forced to leave a place where you were living?
Not forced, but I've lived or stayed at least in places that is not my
Yeah,
home.
yeah. But if you stay there long enough, then you begin to feel comfortable, don't you? When you first go to a new place, it feels very strange. But if you stay there, even you don't call it mine, then it's more familiar and your mind relaxes. Doesn't it? Yeah? So it's an interesting thing to ask ourselves, why do I feel comfortable in this place, which is familiar, and I don't feel comfortable in that place until it becomes familiar? Yeah, but once it's familiar, then you feel okay. But you still have to leave it. Yeah? Over here, Shireen? Oh, yes.
Thank you, Venerable. So when we understand the teachings, we cannot escape from our own mind. Do you have some tips with regards to applying the teachings, as you described the verses, so that we do not flip into being too extreme, because not being a person who lives in a monastery, we still have to live in a relative world. And sometimes some of these verses could put someone, kind of in the extreme sometimes, and based on our mind. So are there tips which we could look out for so that we could make sure we are really discerning and practicing the right path?
Yeah. Well, I think, like I mentioned, I don't think that most people here are ready to go in and do long retreat in a forest. So you don't need to worry about that. Yeah. When in some, maybe this lifetime or in future lifetimes, when you're ready and you've created all the causes to have a successful retreat, then you can go. But now don't put this on yourself of, oh, now I have to go out in the forest and I have to quit my job. Oh, my boss is going to be so upset. What happens if I die before I quit my job? I have to train somebody else to take my job. I can't die on him. It's like, watch your mind, and when you start thinking really silly things, just laugh at yourself. Okay? And just, like I said, when we're ready to go on a deep retreat, these verses, they're implanted in our mind. We can do that. In the meantime, I think it is good to recall that our lives are impermanent and we will die, and then make preparation for it. Yeah. I mean, even people who know nothing about Buddhism talk about making preparation for death. Yeah. And they'll start, one way to start thinking about this is, do you have on file an advanced healthcare directive, so that if you are in an accident and you can't make your own healthcare decisions, you've appointed somebody, a family member or a friend, to make those decisions for you? Yeah. How many of you have a healthcare directive? Yeah, that's signed, and you've talked it over with friends or family. Everybody should do this. Yeah. Because we don't know, We always think, oh, other people get in accidents. Well, we may be the other person sometime. And if that happens, we want to know who's making the healthcare decisions for us. So we write it out, we have it notarized, it's on file. Yeah. And we also make a will, so that whatever possessions we have, who we want them to go to, and that's also on file. Yeah. And I also, made a document of who to notify. If I'm in the process of dying, I want them to notify my teachers so that my teachers can make prayers. So, planning this part out is a first step in just really saying, yes, I'm going to die sometime, and I need to think about things. Yeah. Do you want to be put on life support, or do you want them to just let you die naturally? It's, we really have to think about that and decide and put it on paper. And it's so much kinder to our family if we do that, because then our family knows exactly what we want. Yeah. Because otherwise it can be very, very difficult. Yeah. Somebody in the family is dying, and, they didn't say who they want to make the decision. So this relative says, put them on life support. That relative says, no, let them die naturally. Then somebody else says, transfer them to another hospital. And then somebody else has their, and then nobody knows what to do. Yeah, and nobody knows what we want. Yeah, so the first step in not being extreme, as you asked, is just starting some regular relative planning of what we want people to do and what kind of health care do we want. Yeah, what kind of prayers do you want after you die? Yeah, do you have specific practices or prayers that you really like, that you would like people to recite while you're dying, or if you're, incapacitated, or after you die? Yeah, so write all of this down. Yeah, some of the things like the will and the advance directive for healthcare, you have to have notarized, and then you keep it in a file where your family or friends know about it. And then when they need it, it's there. And you can revise this. If you change your mind later, you can revise it. But that's a first step in beginning to think about these things. Yeah, and it's not extreme to do that. In fact, in the U.S., yeah, when I went for my checkup this last year, the doctor, already gave me the form and said, if you have a heart attack, do you want CPR? Yeah. And he gave me the form. He said, please think about it, fill it out. I already had. But, your doctors, it's so much easier on family, doctors, everybody, if you do this. What's there?
Advanced care planning.
Oh, it's there. Okay. Okay. No, I don't need.
Once it's
Yeah.
by the government, we have to fill up all this
Oh,
before
okay.
you go.
Yeah.
Strongly recommended.
Yeah.
For real.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The government often gives these forms. Yeah. Oh, thank you, because it's much easier to do when there's a form. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to dedicate now. So let's rejoice in the merit we created, the merit everybody here created, and let's dedicate it for the awakening and the happiness and joy of all living beings, and so that all living beings may prepare themselves for death, so that their deaths can be relaxing and without fear or regret.